Welcome everyone. My name is Cindy, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer stage 2 in December 21st, 2021. The way that I'm connected to YSC is that I actually attend the one of their groups. I've been attending for several months, and I find it very resourceful and helpful just to be in a group with other people that are struggling with some of the same things that I'm struggling with. And I'm also active on the Facebook group. Whenever I have a question or concern, I just reach out, and there's always someone there that has experienced what I've experienced. So you can also, I'll put it in the chat box, go to the YSC website. There are so many resources on that website. It's youngsurvival.org. Also, this group is being video and audio recorded. So it'll be available for 30 days. And you have to have registered for the summit to have access to the recordings. So we have a special guest here that will be discussing navigating grief and loss. I am going to be reading her just her bio quickly so we can get started. Let me see where I have it. Did have these open. Oh, here it is. So, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name, Relia.
It's Relier. It's hard.
Relier. Okay. Okay. Okay.
No worries.
So, Mindy Relier, she's the executive director of an organization called One Wish World. She's a Reiki master, mentor, certified end of life doula, is that how you pronounce it? And grief advocate. So she is a teacher, a mentor, and an advocate. So she says that her life calling is to guide others in seeing their innate gifts and leading them to connection with their own sense of purpose. She believes that all have powerful tools that are meant to support us as we move through this difficult and beautiful experience called life. By discovering these gifts, we can engage in a more meaningful and fulfilling life. She is devoted to a strong and regular practice of grief work, as she has seen and experienced firsthand that by honoring our sadness and loss, we create pathways to pure peace and joy. In 2018, she created a community project called Ever Present to facilitate this work. At EP events, she gathers together online and in person in the community to discuss our own experiences with grief and loss. We learn how to talk about death and sadness and how to support one another as we move through our own heartache and joy. She invites us to engage in this journey of healing and wholeness. So let me close this. So without further ado, you can start. Mindy.
Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. I so appreciate you and your willingness to moderate this workshop. Welcome to everybody who is here this morning. I am super grateful to be here with every one of you. I am coming to you from the kitchen, my kitchen in the beautiful rural mountains of Park City, Utah. So you might hear a tractor in the background. You might hear a big chocolate lab groaning or moaning or barking in the background. That's just life. And I like to keep this really casual. My experience with this topic of grief and loss is that we all experience grief and loss in all sorts of different forms, in all sorts of different levels throughout our entire life. It is part of the human experience. And so for me, it just feels, it feels like a huge void that we are never really taught how to talk about this in our culture. And because of that, I feel really devoted and very called to bringing this language, this conversation, and some of these tools into the foreground of our culture. Um, as Cindy mentioned, I did create a symposium in 2018 and then also in 2019 called Ever Presence, and it was an all-day symposium that was devoted to just creating this conversation around end of life and all that entails, and then also grief and grief work. We had a great momentum going, and we were set to do another one in 2020. And like all organizations, were so we were also affected by COVID, and we ended up not choosing to do an online event at that time. But I have continued to do this kind of work with organizations like YSC. I also work with another organization called Image Reborn that is based in Utah. If you haven't heard of them, they provide wellness retreats for women of all ages who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I started doing grief circles with that organization in about, let's see, probably 2019. We started working together, and we started bringing this conversation into the weekend agenda. These women come from Friday until Sunday and fly in from all over the country to connect with other women who have breast cancer. And when I first started working with them, I played crystal bowls, I played sound bowls. And so I was just providing the sound bowls for the yoga classes. And it was kind of like the elephant in the room. We didn't really talk about grief at all. And we would do yoga, and we would do wellness, and we would do it kind of felt like we did everything but. And grief was just the one thing that, again, because we don't really know how to talk about it, we don't know how to address it. It was not part of that agenda until one day we asked the women if they would be interested in including this conversation. And it was an overwhelming yes, that everybody wanted to talk about the subject, even though it is a very tender subject. So it's something that is really close to our hearts, and there are a lot of emotions, and a lot of people are at a different stage with grief, particularly around their diagnosis. But the answer was yes, we want this included. We want to learn how to talk about this. Not only do we want to learn how to process grief in our own lives, but we want to learn how to talk about grief and loss with our loved ones. We want to be able to support our loved ones in their grief around our diagnosis. So it kind of just covered the gamut. And so we did start including that in our thank you, Sue Ken, for including that. I think I've met you before at one of those retreats. Yeah, thanks for that link. So that's kind of just a little bit of background around how I started working with particularly women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer in these two organizations. I also do a lot of grief circles just in the community, because part of this whole idea of grief and loss is that it is part of the human experience. There's not one of us that goes through life without experiencing loss and therefore grief. And so before we even get started, my intention for today, in the time that we have together, is to teach some of these tools that really, in a safe and honoring way, to really just go within and to gather information about our own relationship with grief and loss. And so we will get to that, and we will I'll teach you just a few tools that are simple in nature, but they are really powerful. And so they are also they are approached with the deepest respect and reverence. Um, when I first started my end of life journey, which was in about 2016, shortly thereafter, I discovered a man by the name of Francis Weller. He is he's a therapist, but he specializes in grief and loss. And he wrote a book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And we can put that in the chat. It's just The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller. But I love this quote by him. Grief and love are sisters, woven together from the beginning. Their kinship reminds us that there is no love that does not contain loss, and no loss that is not a reminder of the love we carry for what we once held close. So that will be the kind of the basis of what we do here today is exploring this idea that our bodies, our physical bodies, are able to hold grief and joy at the same time. And I think that that can be a little bit of a foreign idea, because I think that we feel like we have to do one or the other wholly and completely. The truth is that at times our grief is going to be a lot stronger than our joy. But by learning how to safely kind of tap into that grief and allow ourselves to really go there, it truly opens us up to even more joy. And so we're able to live in a much more balanced state of being. So without any further ado, I want to start with our very first practice. This is just a 3-minute practice. I like to do this at the beginning of every grief circle that I hold. I do this for pretty much every circle that I hold. And if you and I get to ever meet in person, you'll know that I feel very strongly about always sitting in a circle. As we gather together here in this amazing way that we get to do this from all across the country, I would ask that each of you just imagine that we're sitting in a circle. The reason I feel so strongly about doing this in a circle is that first and foremost, when we're seated together in a circle, our hearts are facing each other. So we get to come to this space with an open heart, just immediately sitting in this circle. Some days our hearts are more open than other days, and that is a-okay. There is nothing wrong with that. We come as we are. That's the other part that is so important to know about a grief circle, is that there is no right, wrong, good, or bad. We come to the circle as we are. And this is why I love Francis Weller so much. He holds many community grief circles. And the idea with a grief circle is that some days we come and we feel much more aligned with our joy. We feel much more open and able to really tap into our hearts. And on those days, we get to support the other people in the circle who are really in the depths of grief and feeling pretty shut down and really struggling. And in that way, we learn how to give support and love, and we also learn how to receive it. And I think it's the latter that we tend to struggle the most with, and that is just receiving support, even from ourselves at times, because we tend to be quite judgmental and we tend to be quite hard on ourselves. So we're going to do this 3-minute exercise. I will watch the clock, so you don't have to at all. And I was sharing with Cindy that I really like to hold a pretty informal circle here together today. So if at any point after we do this little exercise, you have something to share or you have a question, please just raise your hand. Just raise your hand down here. I'm trying to see where it is down at the bottom. I guess it's under reactions, right?
Yeah, it's under reactions.
Okay.
Yeah, once they click that, it says raise hand.
Okay, so please just feel free at any point to raise your hand. I love being able to share. Again, that's another reason that the circle is so important to me, because when we're in a circle, we are all teachers and we are all students. So every single one of us is going to bring something that nobody else in the circle has. And so there is opportunity to contribute. There's opportunity to connect, and just always keeping at the forefront that anything that comes up during this time together, as we create this safe container, we are creating a safe container that there is no right, wrong, good, or bad, and that there is nothing too small and nothing too big for our circle. So if you have a thought that is, I really want to share this, but I don't know, it feels kind of dumb, it might seem kind of silly, just know that that does not exist here, that there is nothing too small and there is nothing too big. So whatever comes up for you, I hope that you feel this safe space and that you can allow yourself to share that. So without any further ado, we're going to do the 3-minute exercise that is, I like to call, current state of being. So I have this sound bowl here that I'm going to play, and you might hear it, you might not hear it, because my dog might be drinking his water. And if this doesn't pick up the sound of the bowl, just know that it's totally okay, that we're just going to have 3 minutes of silence, and I will time us. I will be in charge of letting you know when the 3 minutes are up. So during the 3 minutes, what I invite each one of us to do here is to just close our eyes and go within. And one of the most powerful ways to go within is just to connect with our breath. And when we do this, we know that this place that we hold inside of us is very safe. That this is a place that holds our truth. It is unique to each one of us. There's only one space that is for each of us. So it's a safe haven. It's a place where we can go. And all we're doing here is gathering information. Again, it's just information. And so as we take these 3 minutes, I invite you to go within and just ask, what is my current state of being? So it's kind of, what is alive in me today? And what I like to encourage is just that you come up with 3 words. Just ask, what are 3 words that describe how I feel in this moment? And so we're going to start right now. And I'm going to just start this. So it's exactly, I'm going to watch this clock here. And again, it's an invitation. So if it feels safe and comfortable to close your eyes and connect to your breath, please do so. If it doesn't, absolutely no pressure. And we'll go ahead and begin now. just very gently, very softly begin to come back to our space here. Just begin to reconnect to your breath. Maybe take a deep, slow inhale, allowing that to feel healing and balancing. And when you're ready, just gently and slowly blink your eyes open and come back to the group. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, so as we go around, again, this is our safe container. And so if you would rather not share, a pass is just as honored as anything that is ever shared in our little virtual circle that we have created here. And so I will go first. I will just share what came up for me, and then we'll just kind of go around. You can either enter the words that came up for you in the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can kind of share what came up for you. For me, the way that I am feeling this, it's morning here, it's 10:30 here. I think we are all in different time zones, but the way that I'm feeling this morning is just overwhelming gratitude for this time that we have together and that we get to share this space. It always feels healing and balancing for me. I also feel really still, which is kind of unusual for me lately. I have felt really jittery lately, even without coffee, it just feels like my energy. But this today, I'm feeling really still, and I'm also feeling a sense of sadness that is deep within my heart, and that feels just as real as the other things that came in for me. So thank you for hearing that. Who would like to share next?
Here we are. So Su Yan, and hopefully I pronounced it correctly. Feeling peace, purpose, joy, and love.
Mm,
Amelia feels pain physically, anxiety, a need to do all things at once, and a little touched out.
okay, thank you.
Brittany says hopeful, anxious, but supporting.
Excellent. Okay.
I think that was everyone except me. So it was hard to find the third thing. Um, there are a lot of things that are just I'm focused on right now. But two things that did come up are fearful and overwhelmed.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So I so appreciate everyone just joining in, whether you felt moved to share or not. I feel deeply grateful to have been able to do that exercise together. So the reason that I feel so strongly about including this 3-minute current state of being at the very beginning of any kind of gathering this way is just because it's the foundational piece of really learning how to care for ourselves. And when we're doing grief work, when we're doing any kind of work around loss, any kind of work where it's real, like this is raw and this is real, and we are asking for the truth. We're not here to sugarcoat one thing. We are here to be very honest with ourselves. And so in order to know what we need, or to even give ourselves what we need, we have to first know what we're feeling inside. Go ahead. Cindy, would you mind reading that? Go ahead.
Sure. So Amelia said, honestly, I don't think I've ever done that exercise and I really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Um, I'm so grateful that that you felt that way. The shocking thing about it is that first of all, it's 3 minutes. So did that feel like 3 minutes?
No.
How did that feel to all of you as far as the length of time?
It seemed really fast to me. I was like, was 3 minutes over? That's it. I wanted more.
Yes. Feel free to chime in, anyone else who might have a how that felt, how that 3 minutes felt.
So Amelia did add that it was so fast.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the general consensus is holy cow, that was 3 minutes. It felt like 3 seconds, right? Or 3 minutes or 30 seconds. It doesn't ever feel like 3 minutes. But the interesting thing about it is that time does not matter. So the other part about it that I wanted to say is that I've now done this hundreds of times. And every time that I do this, I get some word or some feeling that I did not know I had going on in my body. I had no idea it was there. And so that is the reason that I feel like this one tool is so elemental and so crucial to us really beginning our healing process in order to support ourselves, even it's a process of self-love, even because it's how we learn how to support ourselves. And the other part is that if I don't even have 3 minutes, if I just have 30 seconds, I've done this in my car when I'm driving to an event or when I'm kind of feeling kind of stressed out, or I just need a moment. I'll sit in my car in silence, turn the engine off, and just breathe for 30 seconds and just ask, what's going on? What do I have happening inside of me right now? I've also done it for 30 minutes, and those are usually end up being kind of journaling sessions for me, where I will sit, I'll open it that way, and then as I journal, I allow whatever is in there that's making me feel so overwhelmed. What is it that I feel sad about? Because in the 3 minutes that I do that check-in, it doesn't really matter why I feel sad, why I feel overwhelmed. In those moments, I'm just looking for information. I'm just asking for my honest current state of being. So the processing of that can come later. But that is the most crucial and beautiful part of it. And so the other thing that I'd like to ask, I'd like to begin with that current state of being where we just take 3 minutes. But I think my other question, if you feel comfortable sharing either with your voice or in the chat, is what brought you here today to this circle, and what are you hoping to get out of our time together here? So if you feel comfortable, we'll just take a minute and just see what comes up in the chat, or again, feel free to just speak it if you'd like to.
Hi, Sue. Suyan.
Hey, I'm not actually camera ready, so that's why I didn't have my camera on. But
It's fine. It's good to put a face with the name.
So I'm here because I've experienced a lot of grief and loss in the last year. So both my in-laws passed away earlier this year. And then I had some other cancer friends who passed away in the last year. In fact, one of them was with Image Reborn, and we just kind of had a reunion celebrating her life and getting back together with our 2019 group. And so Allie Morrison, who is part of Image Reborn, she mentioned you. And then when you were talking about your background, I'm like, I think this is who Allie was talking about. And I went back, I'm like, oh, yes, it is. So I'm glad to finally meet you. But yeah, I think I'm in a good place, and that I'm more on the joyful side. And, I've done a lot of grief processing when my dad passed in 2018. So I feel a lot better about it, but it's always good to have tools, and perhaps I'm not processing as much as I think I am. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Su Yan. It's so nice to meet you. Allie is one of my favorite people on the whole planet. I love her. She and I have done a lot of work together, and I love her like a sister. I'm grateful you're here.
Hi, Brittany, you have your camera on.
Yeah,
Love
I'm
it.
not camera ready as well. But oh well. So I had not had a chance to look at the breakouts until actually this morning. So, but I actually think, Mindy, that you were the person that led me to end of life doula, because it was at Image Reborn retreat. But I had been through cancer and then a rare muscle disease. And about 3 weeks after that retreat where I met you, I got diagnosed with cancer again. So I'm here. I'm okay. But that being said, I'm coming up on, so in August 16th is my 5-year from the first diagnosis. So all of this has been in 5 years. And I've lost a lot of relationships, friendships. I lost a lot of people during COVID time. And I was in a really bad work situation, but a single mom with cancer, I like couldn't find a way out. I tried to fight for myself, and it basically was me, or I needed my health that I have left. And so there's a lot of good things in my life. Like I actually left that job and now I'm working at the cancer hospital that saved my life. And I'm also a patient research advocate with them. And I'm going to be at the Metaseg Breast Cancer Conference in Park City as an advocate partner. And so these little things, my body is not what it was. And I have grieved a lot of that part of things. I had an explant after the muscle disease. So there's a lot of differences in my body and who I am, or how I see life. And I'm feeling right now, though, that because I found out after all this that I have a telomere biology disorder. So I was hoping I would be done, since I've had these 3 miracles in a row. But it looks like hospitals aren't done for me. But with that being said, I think that it's just hitting me right now because I went from a bad situation, started a new job, moved, had to find a new place. And now I'm in this job and I really like it. And I'm working with cancer patients and I have just love for them. But all of these appointments are showing up for the new doctors for the biology disorder. And I'm just going, but can I just be not a patient? Like, sorry, I guess I'm just, sorry. Just feel a lot of grief surrounding so many different things, and so many, like, lost a bunch of cancer friends, and it's just a lot. And I think I've just been like having to deal with my life, and I do mindfulness work and all this stuff, but sometimes, like in the last 6 weeks, it's just got really overwhelming. So I heard you, Cindy, when you say overwhelm, that's it. And so I pretty much keep doing my life, and I'm in school and I'm busy. But what I find is if I don't take moments to actually face some of those things, that it paralyzes me, like doing anything other than just the bare minimum. So I'm here by accident on purpose. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you for being here and thanks for sharing. So many things that you brought up are so important for us to talk about here in this setting. One of which is that, for all of us, the future is a complete mystery. We just don't know what the future holds. And particularly with a cancer diagnosis, and the diagnosis alone is it can be a form of trauma. And it's another thing that we just don't talk about, we just kind of, and you also, Brittany, you talked about how we can shove things down, I think Su Yen talked about this a little bit too, but we can kind of we can kind of just push things down here. And I do it. I've been doing grief work for a while now, and I catch myself doing this. Now I see my pattern around it. And again, it's not right, wrong, good or bad. It just is. And I guess my intention around creating this kind of awareness around it that you also spoke about is that I get more comfortable with my patterns instead of judging them and feeling like I'm wrong. I'm more able to just really go, oh, I'm doing that again. I'm doing that thing again. I know I do this. And by almost accepting it, loving it, recognizing it, I move through that pattern way faster because I'm not rejecting it and I'm not pushing it into some part of my body where I think I can just hide it. And that's what I do. I know exactly where it goes in my body. I now have done this long enough that I can, when I do that check-in, I can just kind of go to that spot and say, all right, what am I storing up for the winter? What nuts have I tucked away down there that I don't want to look at in this moment? And what I have found over the years is that by returning to that space again and again and again, that I'm learning to really love that part of myself that I used to hate. It used to be so shameful, it used to be this space, and I still go there. I don't think we ever, if you've ever heard of Gabor Mate, he does some amazing work with trauma. He's a physician from Vancouver, Canada. But he says that that on his headstone, on his grave, he wants to have it engraved, I had no idea it would be this hard. And also that we never ever get out of having to do this work until we do take our very last breath and we do die. That this is part of the human existence. It's part of what we go through as a human race, which again, for me, is why I feel that there's just no reason that we don't have any language around this. It's so important to be able to talk about it. Is there anything in the chat, Cindy? I don't know if I missed anything.
Amelia said that she said the loss of her former self, and she thinks, and survivor guilt.
Yes. Those are two that are super huge. And those come up in almost every single grief circle that I do with either Image Reborn or YSC. Those are massive, right? It's the loss of this prior self, it's very real. I'd love to have others speak to that who might have a little bit more insight in that, if anybody else has more to say about that.
I can share a little bit if it's okay.
Sure.
So after with the first cancer, I don't know. I don't think anyone's ready for that ever. But when I got diagnosed, and it was just like, I guess they found out on my birthday that I had cancer, and the doctor was like, don't call her today. Do not call her today. Do not call her today. But so 2 days later, I found out, and I went into shock, of course, and I was with my kids. But I was very much a person that was used to being super overproductive, busy, addicted to the machine, like distraction, running from, like, I was always busy, and I was working a full-time job, and then I was working basically the nights at the comedy club. So I wasn't sleeping very much. And then I get the cancer diagnosis, and I'm like, well, I can't, like, no one can take care of me. I don't have a partner. I don't have parents that can pay. I don't have, like, okay, so, all right. And my first instinct was I was not going to tell anyone. I was going to hiding and then come out later if I was lucky enough. And the nurse I talked to that day was just like, you can't do that. You have to ask for help. You're a single mom. And I'm like, I don't ask for help. Yeah, I had to learn, and I had to learn many times. But I was very much, I'll just tell you, personal wise, I had long blonde extensions. I had long fingernail. I'm not a girly girl, but I think I was over presenting. I don't know. Lots of just very focused on the external, because the story I would get out here was that because I was single, like, oh, well, you still could find someone. Like, there's very messed up thinking where I come from, down the hill from you, Mindy, in Utah. And so I just tried to barrel through. I did my chemo. I'd have chemo and then I'd work those 2 nights after because I was okay with the comedians. But you can see my face is red. I'm like, I'm barely hanging on, but I did it. And people ask how, and I don't know. That first time was pure trauma. I didn't have anyone to advocate for or with me. I just thought that the doctors knew better. And I unfortunately got paired up with not great doctors. But that's why I'm here now, because I don't want other people to feel like they have to choose what they're stuck with when having a diagnosis like this. And then, I'm sorry, let me get back. Then went to my life. My doctor's like, oh, you're good. I think you're going to be one of the people that never comes back. You're doing so well. But if you have any symptoms, call us. And then if that was in November 2020, I started falling or not being able to get up. And so I called them, could be spine on my spine. And he said, oh, we don't think that has to do with us. And so there was a lot of yucky there. So I ended up firing him and finding a new follow-up oncologist in the middle of May of 2021, and then got diagnosed July 1st again. So what I want to say to you is, in the beginning, I was kind of normal. I was trying to get back to that normal, whatever that was. But my normal was not the best. My normal didn't have much self-esteem. She was trying everything she could to be perfect, to be worth it in this culture, in this world, and failing every single day because it's not possible. And so in between, before the second diagnosis, when I ended up in a wheelchair in a nursing home, had to learn how to use a transfer board. I couldn't do anything for myself. And that was a moment where I couldn't run. I could no longer run or distract myself. And so I dug deep myself into, from the nursing home, I went into like, I know it's always weird to talk about. So I went into like the Bible and stuff because I came from a really different background I wanted to like learn for myself. And then I went into support groups online at the nursing home. And that's when I started changing. Like, it transformed me to be where, like, if I went back now after this second cancer and everything, if I went back to who I was before, I'd be sad. But that's my own personal experience. We all have our own ideas of like, oh my gosh, I was so great back then. I was living it up. I had this personality, but who I am now cannot be that. And my oncologist did say that she met so many first cancer people that do go back to normal. They can go back to a pretty close semblance of normal. But for me, when I got the second one, she goes, that's not going to look the same for you. And she's right. But a lot of those things were me being able to ground myself, work with a counselor on this PTSD from white coat PTSD, and find really good doctors and also become an advocate. So I have a voice. So I take all the things that were really hard and bring them into now. And sorry, I just keep talking.
No, wonderful.
Thanks for
listening. Such wonderful points. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's rich. Those are rich experiences for you to share with us here. So thank you for that. I just wanted to check in. Let's see.
Yeah, it's 12:47 on my end. So.
Okay. So I think we are out of time, unfortunately. What I will say, it has been such an absolute gift and pleasure to connect with all of you here. And my email is just my first and last name @gmail.com. If you would like to continue to connect with me, I do offer other grief circles. I offer, there are different groups that I'm connected with who asked me to come on and do different kind of grief and loss support. So if you're interested in any of those things, please don't hesitate to, thank you, Cindy, send me an email, and we can stay in touch. It's just been so beautiful. I would like to just close our container right now. And again, thank each one of you for the heart space that you brought to this circle, your incredible experiences, all of the realness of your experiences, and just your current state of being today. Thank you for allowing that to be part of our circle today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Just real quick, Brittany, Millie said thank you. She appreciates your story.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.